So let's take a look at our actual project, the Hillside Retreat. And we've set this up in AutoCAD and superimposed the plan on the site topography, the floor plan on the site topography, and then went step by step in developing our landscape, soft and hard landscape along outside the building along the site. Um, the several steps that are taken here, the first one is, of course, considering our views based on the analysis that you may have done, and considering that as you move along. Soon after we've having placed the actual floor plan on the site and its topography, I'm going to use this as a site plan and develop it as such. But instead of showing the roof plan, we're just going to show the interior floor plan and work on the site plan while the floor plan is shown the entire time. In our last step, we will actually go in and replace the floor plan with a roof plan. The reason we keep the floor plan in the beginning is simply to begin to study the relationship between perhaps the interior and the exterior. Same thing as it might occur here, the hallway, interior, and how that might relate to an exterior right outside of it, so on and so forth. So this is basically orienting the floor plan. So it's aligned with the X and Y axis to start with. And we went ahead also and grouped the entire floor plan. Just grabbed the entire, because the floor plan was originally drawn with just walls by themselves, furniture by themselves. Just went ahead and grabbed the entire floor plan and grouped it so that you can move it if we need to as a unit. The second step was generating regulating line. Now, this is maybe a new term for you. Regulating lines are lines that are construction lines that you use to align stuff with in architecture. They're usually, when we refer to regulating lines, we're referring to them in plan, in site plan, in floor plan, and sometimes in elevations, exterior elevations. There's datums. We also have datums. We won't talk about those necessarily. Those are usually in section, building section, but let's focus on regulating lines. Okay. We've generated regulating lines that are born from the building, just like some of the images we looked at previously, in which some regulating lines are probably born from the building geometry, such as this. All right, you have a building geometry that's doing a certain thing, and the ground plane begins to do the same geometry like the building does, and more directly perhaps, such as the regulating lines in the site plan are born again from the building geometry as well. Having said that, let's get back to our plan for the Hillside Retreat. Now, these regulating lines can become useful in the forthcoming steps when you come to divide landscape, its hardscape from the softscape, and trying to decide where you make those zones. It may become helpful, and in some places you may violate that rule in which you might place a landscape. That'll become a little bit clearer as we move towards the next steps. If you realize, I just took every corner of the building and drew a straight line from it, right? You may have a straight line from here actually as well, right? And that can become a regulating line in case you want to put a certain amount of landscape just in that zone, right? And it'll become born from the building itself. Regulating line right here, aligned with the hallway. Regulating lines born from where the hallway separates from the library. Regulating lines of the size of the study. Regulating lines right here coming out from the corner of the building where the hallway meets the bedroom, and they run all the way. We're just running all the regulating lines all the way across the property lines. This is the property line. This is your lot, basically. You can't build outside of that. And notice how the regulating lines are always from the living room, starting the corner of the living room, running all the way out. I could have made for myself another regulating line, for example, right here. That could have become maybe useful or maybe not used as we move forward. So having taken this step with the regulating lines, then we moved over to a next step. Our next step basically begins to look at the exterior living zones. Okay. The first step that was taken is that we made some boxes that are the exact same size as the boxes that were drawn for the living room or for the library, so on and so forth. Then we basically moved those boxes to the outside and try to see how we can use them. So for example, in this scenario, we have done that to start with, but we didn't use it. We decided again instead to actually align it with where the opening starts and keep the geometry as is. So this is a start. This is your step one. Doing the same thing over here. You have sliding doors. This one is operable. It moves. This one maybe is fixed. So you come in the hallway, you walk out, you take a few steps down because this topo separates a low space from a high space. And then you have a deck right here. Okay, that's just an example. And the deck happens to, well, I decided, where do we want to stop that deck? Well, let's stop it right where we have a regulating line. This one didn't, these two didn't necessarily meet in terms of the regulating line, but that's okay. Then we made a deck right here on the back. Again, two intersecting pieces. All right, decided to separate the deck from the access to the deck from the hallway, simply so that the deck feels independent. And then we can make a clear intersecting geometry between the access and the steps. This is a topography line that goes from low to high. So then we've placed some steps right there to work for that. Okay, let's talk about planters and in-ground zones in just a minute. We'll continue in the next video.